consultant. I am the founder of .NET Friday, which is a meetup, and I'm happy to invite you all. Just follow .NET Friday on the socials, and hopefully see you there. So SignalR and Azure Web PubSub. Forget SignalR. Why should you forget SignalR? Well, in fact, you shouldn't, because Azure Web PubSub and SignalR are not the same. They're different products, but they have, technically speaking, an overlap of, let's say, 80%. They work on the same tech in the cloud. So basically, SignalR and Web PubSub are two different products in the Azure cloud that you can leverage. Now, what's the difference? Let's see what David Fowler says. What is the difference between Web PubSub and SignalR, and when should you go for a SignalR solution or Web PubSub? Well, SignalR has been around for quite some time. I believe almost 20 years, maybe a little bit shorter. But that made SignalR evolve over time. And way back when SignalR started, not all the browsers supported a Websocket. Now, a Websocket is by far the most efficient way to do real-time communication, or at least near real-time communication. Real-time communication in our world doesn't exist. But a couple of browsers didn't support that WebSocket. So SignalR has a couple of fallback scenarios that you can it falls back to in case the WebSocket is not supported. So you have this forever frame thing and a long polling mechanism, and there's a third one, which you can use or is used for you if the WebSocket is not there. But luckily, we don't use Netscape anymore. It's now 2022. All browsers that we use support WebSockets. Even your mobile phone, your tablet, everything supports WebSockets. So this entire fallback mechanism is not needed anymore. What you can do, even with SignalR, is request a connection string and create, for example, in your browser, in JavaScript, a WebSocket object, put that connection string in, and there you go, you're connected. But one downside of SignalR is that who's familiar with SignalR? Can I see some hands? Almost everyone. So in SignalR, you have this mechanism of groups, which comes in very handy, because if you want to create a chat room, for example, and isolate rooms, you can put everyone in a certain group, and everyone in that group can send messages to that group, but also receive messages from that group without bothering other people. But if you want to do that, you're going to have to make a round trip to the server. So you're going to have to tell the server, listen, I want to join this group, or I want to send a message to this group. And then you get information back, yeah, okay, you can or you cannot. With Web PubSub, that's a little bit different. That's where the PubSub comes from. You can publish and subscribe to certain groups without having to go back to the server. So now these scenarios, is this readable, by the way? I'm not sure if it's readable all the way in the back, but else you can use the screens on the side. So these are the scenarios when to go for SignalR. If you already have a real-time solution working with SignalR and you're happy with it, there is totally no need to change your system. Please keep working with SignalR. If you are now planning to start working with a real-time solution, then PubSub might be a good option for you. I didn't do a fair benchmark, but I found that Web PubSub is slightly faster. But once again, I did not benchmark this, so there's no evidence of that. So how does a WebSocket work? Well, we have, in this case, Web PubSub in the cloud, and you have a client, in this case, an Edge browser. And what happens is the WebSocket lives in between. So your browser makes a connection to the server. This connection stays open all the time, allowing the server to send messages to your browser, as long as the connection is still open. And that can be of an advantage, for example, when you want to import a large file, which takes some time, and you want to get back to the user when the import is done. You don't want your user to wait all the time for the import to complete. So what happens, you can make a background process, make a server import the file, and once it's done, you send the result back. Hey, listen up, 30,000 entries were imported successfully, and these 5 failed. So now if Web PubSub lives in the middle, or SignalR, and you have a couple of browsers, what you can do is you can make one browser send a message to Web PubSub, and PubSub identifies all the connections and sends that message out to all the other browsers. And you can do the same with groups. So if a browser is in a group, sends a message to that group, then all the group members get that message. All right, how about the cost? There's no difference for SignalR and Web PubSub. They all go with 40 euros per unit, and a unit allows up to 1,000 connections. If you want to scale up, you scale up a unit, and then you get another 1,000 connections, but you also pay another 40 euros. If you want to play with SignalR or with Web PubSub, then you can go for the free version, which allows up to 20 concurrent connections. And there's also a limit in the amount of messages per day that you can send. Obviously, this pricing is subject to change, so it's accurate now, but it may not be accurate next week anymore. So going to provision a Web PubSub in the cloud. The correct browser, yep. I created a resource group. Zip. Whoops, it's too large. Future tag. If you click on that and then add a resource, you can just go to Web PubSub and caps on. There you go. So this is the Web PubSub service. You can click Create to create it, and then the familiar screen with all the properties that you can add. And you can see that it has a standard version with 1,000 connections, and you can scale that up, make it more pricey, or just go to change and change the plan to the free one. I believe that you can also that you can only have one free version of PubSub per subscription. Whoops, going back to this one. So now you have this PubSub. What you can do is write a simple, small piece of code, and this is JavaScript. And this JavaScript is an entire chat room. So it's the most basic version. And if you use SignalR or if you use PubSub, you can use this very similar piece of code. And it will connect with PubSub, and it will create a chat application for you. And obviously, this is not all demos about real-time are about a chat message, but we're going to do something fun later at the end of the session. But I believe that these demos about chat messages and chat applications are not that fun because it's not very special. But I'll show you. Yep, here we go. So this is one browser, and I'll paste in the link to a chat application, enter my name, Eduard, and then zoom in a little bit, and then it says, yeah, I joined it. My caps is still on. I joined the room. Adding a different browser, zoop, all the way to the right. Same URL. And then I see Fani all the way in front here. Hi Fani, welcome to the chat. And what happens is you can send, you can send a message, hello, and then it appears on both sides. Well, that's not fun, but it's real-time communication. It gives you an indication what happens. So the message is sent from one browser to Azure Web PubSub. It determined that there are multiple connections and both browsers receive the message. So now on the other side, you see that Fanny wrote, hello. Oh, nice. Thank you, Fanny. All right, but now a little bit more advanced. A little bit more advanced demos, because Azure Web PubSub has more. And where it starts shining is with these protocols. What you saw with the chat application used the default protocol, which is quite similar to SignalR. But Web PubSub also supports a JSON schema and a protobuf schema. And the JSON schema is already in the name. Obviously, it supports sending JSON messages back and forth. But these messages are also wrapped in, let's call it a JSON envelope. And this envelope contains information about what you exactly want to do with that message. And that could also be that you want to join a group or send a message to a specific group without having to make a round trip to the server. The protobuf is the exact same protocol, but then it contains the same capabilities, but instead of JSON, it sends binary data. So if you want to use that protocol, all you have to do is where you create your WebSocket connection right here, you add just a simple line, which is the name of the protocol. The top line, Web PubSub URL, is the connection string to my Web PubSub service. And then I add another parameter telling that I want to use a specific type of protocol. Now you can use, for the same connection, you can use, if you like, multiple protocols. So you can mix them up, whatever is suitable for you. One client can connect with a JSON protocol, the other can connect with a protobuf, and you can convert the messages between one another. I wouldn't recommend that, but just saying you can. To come up with this connection string, that is your one single call you're going to have to make to the backend. You can download a client side. In this case, I created a Angular application, and for this Angular client, there's a client library available for Azure Web PubSub, which you can use to connect to Azure Web PubSub. What I did instead is I created a single Azure function. And I make a call to this Azure function, and this Azure function creates a connection string for me. And that connection string contains the URL to my Azure Web PubSub service, but it also contains information about which user I am and the permissions that I have. And with those permissions, I can control what I can do on the client. And I don't have to do that by hand. Azure Web PubSub does that for me. And all that information is stored in a JSON Web Token. So this JSON Web Token, for example, knows when I can join a group or when I can send messages to a specific group. And I just simply receive an error if I send a message to a group that I'm not allowed to. I can also add information. This guy can join any group, doesn't matter which one. And you do this with the web PubSub and then send to, I'll show that later in the demo, .send to group or join leave group. And all this information is stored as a scope inside the JSON Web Token. Now let's go to a demo that I made in this browser. Whoops, that's the end of my mouse. So what I have here is a Web PubSub instance, and when I go to keys and try to find out, no, my battery's gone, and try to find out if my mouse is still alive. All the way down here, you can see this URL client generator. And this URL client generator can do the exact same thing that your backend would do. So in my case, I've created this Azure function to create a connection string to my Azure Web PubSub, but you can mimic its behavior from the portal. So what you can do is, if you want to connect to a specific hub, you enter the name of the hub. Let's call this a chat hub. And then if you have a user ID, 124 obviously, and you want to have lifetime. Okay, this is all fine. And then you have this check mark send to groups. Now, if you check that, then the information about which groups you can add to, which groups you can send to, or which groups on the other side here, join leave, you can join, is added in a JSON Web Token. So for example, if I check these all on, and then instead of all groups, I'm going to allow specific groups. So I'm going to allow only the group, I don't know, finance. And on this side as well, finance. Now, all the way on the bottom, you see that a large URL is generated for me. And you see halfway it says access token, and from there on it contains a JSON web token with all the information that I just entered in this form. So if we go ahead and paste this, and then go to jot.io, obviously, why is all this cookie questions always? All right, so now this is my my web token that contains all the information for my web PubSub. I cannot scroll anymore because my mouse is dead. Literally died on me. So what you can see is now I create a connection to a certain Azure Web PubSub instance. It has some experience and lifetime date, but it also contains role information about web PubSub.send-to-group.finance, and also join leave to finance. Now, if I connect with the with a WebSocket client from my JavaScript, and I send a message that I want to join this finance group, I don't have to go to the server anymore. It just instantly joins that group. And if that group doesn't exist, the group is created for me. What you can also do is leave this entire end, so the dot and the finance out, and then in that case, you have some sort of a wildcard situation for all groups. You can join all groups and send to all groups. Oh. All right, let's go into to my demo. And now I'm going to have troubles because my mouse is dead. And I'm going to drag in, first of all, the function that I created to be able to connect to my Web PubSub service from a client side. So this is an Azure function, and it's triggered by a HTTP post request. And what I did here is I downloaded a Web PubSub client package from NuGet. So that allows me to create a Web PubSub service client. And now I have a connection string to my Web PubSub. I instantiate this Web PubSub service client, and I connect to a certain hub, which is called Poker Hub, because we're all going to poker. And hopefully, my poker app is it's planning poker, and hopefully my planning poker app is going to not crash with this amount of people. So we're playing planning poker in a while with each and every one of you. I have some session information. I create a new session. This is a planning poker session, but nothing is stored on the server. This is all maintained client side, and there's no server storage involved. Everything is on the client. So if you press F5 and refresh, then your entire session is gone. But that's the fun of it. I generate a new user ID just for fun, and then this is where the magic happens. This is where I use my PubSub client to create a client access URL, and that is the exact same that you saw me doing in the portal. So I add some information to this client information, and this client access now contains an object with or at least it is a string, so it's a URL to my Web PubSub service, but also it also contains that Jolt token to allow me to join a specific session group. And then again, this session group is a planning poker session. Now going to my client, and again, I created a Angular application. So you're seeing TypeScript, and this is a function called connect. And what I did prior to this connect call, I created a function that calls my Azure function. So so I called my Azure function. I got a URL back with a Jolt token in it, and from here on, I'm going to connect using using a WebSocket. So on line 111, I create a new WebSocket object, and now I use this special JSON protocol. And this JSON protocol is going to help me to connect to a group, and in this case, the session group from my planning poker, and it does it immediately. So you see that I handle a onOpen event here, and when the WebSocket is opened, I immediately start joining a group, and in this case, the session group of my planning poker session, and I send a message to that group. You can see this is type join group, and this is send to group, and this is information in this special envelope. So join group is a message that Web PubSub will interpret and then identify, hey, you want to join a specific group. So I'm going to add the name of the group, and this acknowledge ID is an ID that you get back from the service when it succeeds. So you can identify, oh, message 1 is succeeded. So that you know in this case that joining the group succeeded. And then send to group, I use this send to group to send information to all other attendees in the session, hey, I'm here. Basically, when you come into a chat room and it says, hey, Fani joined the chat room, now it says, hey, I joined the planning poker session. So going to one of my browsers, now this is my planning poker app, and again it runs on an Azure function, which is, I don't think, alive at this time. And let's call me future tag. Future tag, and then I hit create to create a new session. It now calls my session function, basically wakes up my session, my Azure function, and then it creates a new session for me, and I'm in the room. Going to my other browser, same URL. Hold on. This one, I believe. Where's my mouse? Yes. Sorry. Okay, so now going to the same URL. Yep. And then I can hit the join button and then enter my name, Eduard. And oops, that's the session code. So I'm going to reuse that session code on the top of the screen as to EAQC. And then I hit the join button. And I see that a couple of you already found my URL. So now I all encourage you to grab your cell phone and then go to the URL, which is pp for planning poker. pp.hacksmaster.nl, and we're going to have some fun with each other. Hopefully. Now, once again, I tested this with up to 40 people, and I don't know, I think we're about 100 something. So this is the URL, session code. Let's see if I can bump the font a little bit. I can see everyone start joining. Now what happens if you do planning poker, you all have your own session with a couple of orange cards, and when you make a okay, I see some fun names here. Please keep it nice. We have a code of conduct, so don't use strange names. But what happens if you make a pick? Let's say that we're actually doing planning poker. If you make a pick, then for example, a 13 on this side, then you can see that I can, if I'm correct, I can see my own vote. I chose 14, but obviously all the other votes are not visible for me because that would make the planning poker session unfair. So when I go on the other side, I'm not going for 13, for 13, but I'm going for 8, and then you see that this 8 is also there. Now go ahead and all make a choice, make a pick, start pokering, and then if everyone chose a certain number, I still see that some people didn't cast a vote yet, so please do, because else my demo doesn't work. No, that's the problem. You cannot. I will go ahead. Yeah, that's because I'm the organizer of the session, but I will reset your vote. And if I'm correct, you can all see this. If everyone casted a vote, then the cards should appear as gray because everyone casted a vote. But apparently, not everyone did. Someone is trying to fool me. But what happens if I click this reset all votes? What happens is that the vote on your phones will all be reset. And now to demonstrate how fast Azure Web PubSub is, I'm going to count down, and then you can see on your own phone how fast it is. So that's 3, 2, 1, click. And if I'm correct, all your votes are now reset. Shall we try again and cast one more vote? Just see if it, or else I'll start a new session and then work from there. Yes. No, this is the paid version. because else I would have some connection failures. Oops, a portal. Join. No, stop joining this one. Come on, guys. Give me a break. Okay, cast votes now. Cast. Please do. You guys are making fun of me. Yes! Yes, it succeeded. So everyone casted a vote, and you can see that now the cards start turning gray. Making obviously. All right. let's just go ahead and get back to my demo. So I'm a little bit early. So once again, there's no need to to move away from your SignalR solution if you're already working with a SignalR solution. But Web PubSub has some advantages if you're not with 150 people in a room trying to fool the speaker. And if these advantages fit your scenario, then go ahead and investigate Web PubSub, because it's really fun, it's really fast, and you can make awesome stuff with it. But you simply don't have to move away from SignalR if you have that situation already in place. And my clicker also doesn't work. Everything fails on me today. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention. We're about 10 minutes early, but we have a Q&A as well. And if not, if no one has a question, then please go ahead and get into the other room, and you'll be the first one to have lunch, which is awesome.